Hello! So for HSC Module B, in Standard English, we're doing what's called a close study of literature, which sounds really fancy and challenging, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a few simple things that we're going to talk through. So we're going to grab the rubric, so make sure you got a copy of that if you haven't got it. If you can't find it, just search HSC Standard English rubric Module B and it'll turn up. Let's dive into it. We'll have a look at it and then I'm going to kind of translate as we go so that it makes it a little bit easier to understand what they're actually trying to get you to do. Okay. In this module, students develop an informed understanding, knowledge, and appreciation of a substantial literary text. That sounds really fancy, but what it boils down to is that you're going to study one text and know it really well from a lot of different angles. That's all it is. So we're focusing on one thing and you need to know it really well and you need to have thought about it in a few different ways. So it helps if you are reading widely about it, if you're diving deep, if you're reading the whole thing or viewing the whole thing. So make sure that you are fully engaged with the text and engaging with all the issues and all the possible ideas that it could be talking about. It also means that the questions in terms of exams could go in really any direction. Because the NESA is assuming that you know the text really well, and so they could pick out a particular scene, a particular moment, and get you to talk about that, or they could pick a particular theme, or a character, or an idea, and it's not always going to be obvious straight away. So you need to know the text well enough that you can write about it based on someone giving you a topic to then think about and write about. Through their development of considered personal responses to the text in its entirety, students explore and analyze the particular ideas and characteristics of the text and understand the ways in which these characteristics establish its distinctive qualities. What that means is this. You're going to think deeply about the whole text. So you've got to do some thinking. It's not all going to be spoon feeding. Here's the answer. Here's what you need to say. You need to think about it yourself and analyze these three things. The ideas, its characteristics, things like the form, so the kind of text that it is and the way that the kind of text has been used. For example, in film, there are certain things that you're going to do in film that you wouldn't do in a book. And features, so stylistic features, language or visual features and so on. So getting into that technical level of how things are put together. And the distinctive qualities, that's kind of how do these things add up to make something unique. So all the texts in this module are picked because they are special in some way, they're unique in some way, they're distinctive, they're not just run-of-the-mill, they have a unique vision, and so the texts that we're going to look at has a really unique way of seeing the world and expressing it. So how is it special? Students study one text chosen from the list of prescribed texts. They engage in the extensive exploration and interpretation of the text and the ways composers, authors, poets, playwrights, directors, and designers, whatever, that's just, the word composer is just a NESA word that nobody uses outside of school. It took me a long time to stop writing composer when I was like in uni, but you just call them the author or whatever. But composers is the word, the catch-all term, portray people, ideas, settings, and situations in texts. In other words, you need to focus on how the composer of the text has shown people, ideas, settings, so locations, and situations. Pretty much all the stuff in the book, or in the film, or in the play, and so on. So how are those four things represented? By analysing the interplay between the ideas, forms, and language within the text, students appreciate how these elements may affect those responding to it. All that means is how these things affect the audience, especially the form and the features. So the kind of text it is and how that text has been put together using those kind of features and visual or literary or whatever. Students produce critical and creative responses to the text. This is what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be outputting, basing their judgments on a detailed knowledge of the text and its language features. Through reading, viewing, or listening, students analyze, assess, and comment on a text-specific language features and form. That's a lot of words to just say. You're going to be writing analytical essays and creative pieces, and features and form are coming up again and again, so they're really important. They seem to be pretty much mentioned like, what, 3 times or so now? So features and form are really important to focus on, because that's how the thing has been put together, and that's how we get the ideas and the people and the settings and the situations. Nearly there, they express increasingly complex ideas, clearly and cohesively, using appropriate register, structure, and modality. They draft, appraise, and refine their own texts, applying the conventions of syntax, spelling, and grammar appropriately. All that means is write smart and with good words and stuff. I'm gonna leave that there. And finally, through their analyses and assessment of the text and their own compositions, students further develop their personal and intellectual connections with and enjoyment of the text, enabling them to express their informed personal interpretation of its significance and meaning. What that means is pretty much everything they've already said already, but they needed to hit the word count. Don't do that in your essays. Also, you're supposed to enjoy the text, it says, but we can't assess that. So have fun with it. Enjoy. That's the end of our Module B rubric. Hopefully that gives you some idea of where to go, but if not, here's our summary. What are you actually supposed to do? When you're studying the texts, here's kind of a visual representation of what you need to do. You need to look for ideas, characteristics, and distinctive qualities, people, ideas, settings, and situations, and how they interact. So how do these things and these things connect together, and what is their impact on the audience? So you're drawing connections between these ideas. So focus on these. If nothing else, out of all the module and the rubric and everything, this is the stuff to look at. This is the stuff to concentrate on and pay the most attention to. So hopefully that clears things up a little bit. Let's get into Module B.